Thank you for watching us on YouTube. But did you know that if you're on the go, you can get the full show as a podcast now? You can get our morning breakdown of the most important topics facing our country, news not being covered by the mainstream media, interviews with change-making progressives, and info on what you can actually do about all this. Search for The Damage Report on your favorite podcast app and subscribe so you know when new episodes are ready to go. We are joined now on The Damage Report by Jumaane Williams, candidate for Lieutenant Governor of New York. Very excited to have you on the show.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much. It's exactly 2 weeks to be, as a matter of fact.
Exactly 2 weeks. So that is coming up soon. And so I've been doing research on your candidacy, and you said a number of times that you have a quote different vision for the Lieutenant Governor's office. So you're going against a Democratic incumbent. How does your vision differ from hers?
Well, thank you for that. I'm running in the Democratic Party for Democratic primary because I believe any blue just won't do. The current perception of what the job has always been was basically an expensive rubber stamp office or an expensive ribbon cutting office, basically just doing whatever it is the governor says to do or allows you to do. I fundamentally believe in a different vision. I believe that office should be a partner with the governor, obviously, when they are doing the people's work. But when they're not, when the lip service is different than the actions and people are suffering, someone has to step out and say the emperor has no clothes. The current lieutenant governor believes they're the eyes and ears of the governor. I want to be the eyes, the ears, and the voice of the people of the state of New York. And that's why I'm running to be the people's lieutenant governor.
So it's interesting, you're talking there about the relationship between the governor and the lieutenant governor. So you had a debate recently against Kathy Hochul, the current incumbent. And in that, she was asked if she could recall a time in which she had changed Cuomo's mind on an issue. And she said that she could not come up with an instance of that. If it had been you these past few years, how do you think that would have played out? Do you think you would have had a better shot?
That absolutely would have played out differently. It would have either been one or two policy areas that I definitely could say, this is where I had an impact and change of mind, or this is where I did the best I could to make sure the people's voice was heard, and it would be a palpable way of demonstrating that. That's why we have to have a different type of vision for office. I'm shocked, frankly, that since I've been saying this, the current lieutenant governor hasn't changed her position, but she's sticking to it to make it basically a primarily ceremonial role. Just to be clear, in the Democratic Party primary here in New York, they specifically allow you to run independently from the governor. And I think they did that for a reason. They wanted to make sure that, yes, you are a partner, but not a rubber stamp. And when there are disagreements, which there will be in government, you're not beholden to the legislature, you're not beholden to the governor, you're beholden to the people that you represent.
And it's interesting, obviously the relationship between those two is different state to state, and you rightfully point out that the independence there in New York is an important part of it. But I've been looking at how she's been campaigning, and I haven't seen too much focus on what she hopes to accomplish if she's reelected. But in terms of you, she said a few things that certainly stood out that perhaps you can respond to. She sent a fundraising email recently that referred to you as just a, quote, charismatic young black man. How do you respond to that?
It's sad that that's where we are, and you have people who are calling themselves part of the resistance, part of them calling themselves activists. It's interesting. I was always told that I had to choose between being an activist and an elected official. I rejected that, and I adopted both. In 2018, people who can't even formulate what that means are trying to say that. And we have people who are saying they want to fight Trump while adopting the same tactics, unfortunately, that is used. In the South, they're much more blunt. So in Florida, someone might be called a monkey. In the North, they've always been much more sophisticated with their dog whistling. So they might just surmise my entire career being ranked the most productive council member in a 51-member body, passing almost 50 pieces of legislation, the most of any sitting council member, to simply a charismatic young black man that people should be afraid of.
Yeah, well, they are more subtle, but I think people still got the message. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, unfortunately. So in addition, she has tried to attack you with references to your personal financial debt, which strikes me as an odd thing to use as an attack, considering how serious the debt crisis has become in this country. So how do you respond to that?
It was interesting. I have been saying I'm running against a establishment Democrat who's a millionaire and kind of living in a bubble. and lo and behold, I get attacked about my debt, which kind of just proved the point. And actually, we have some things that I've been very open about, having to deal with a foreclosure, with a business that failed. Thankfully, we've been able to work down some of that debt. And basically, she said that 75% of New Yorkers who are dealing with debt would not be eligible or should not be eligible to run for office. And so that was an interesting claim to make. I have been a very good steward of the people's money in New York State, whether I was running nonprofits statewide or as an elected official. The current lieutenant governor actually has not. There's been a lot of corruption. There's been something called a Buffalo Billion, where the lieutenant governor and the governor received large contributions from people that they then gave almost $1 billion to. And that gentleman and others are actually going to jail now. But we see these kind of attacks again on specific kind of candidates, whether it's Stacey Abrams in Georgia or myself here. There's certain kind of candidates that usually get these types of attacks. Again, it's dog whistling around race and class. That just shows the current lieutenant governor not only is out of touch, but doesn't want to get into touch and basically wants to use the fears of people she believes will react negatively to this, will react in fear to this, to come out the same way they came out for Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, that is certainly, I understand that that's the sort of thing that's going to happen in these general elections lately. It's sad to see it happening in Democratic primaries as well. One final question for you, though. Obviously, let's say you become lieutenant governor, you might be either working with Cuomo or Nixon, depending on which ends up in office. How do you think that's going to impact your ability to achieve your goals in the lieutenant governor's office?
Well, I do want to say I happen to have a lot of identities. I am a black man. I have Tourette's syndrome and ADHD. People may say me shake a little bit. I am a public school baby from New York State, from preschool to master's. I was raised by a single mom who raised 2 knucklehead children by herself. I'm a first-generation American. My parents are immigrants. Those kind of identities are under attack. But more than that, my vision for this office, the history that I have on the city council of productivity combined, doesn't change what I want to do with whomever the governor is. As a matter of fact, if the current governor actually believed in things he was saying, I'm the type of lieutenant governor he would want to get it done. Thankfully, Cynthia Nixon, who I've endorsed, does agree with my vision of the office. That's why we've cross-endorsed. And again, my job is not to be adversarial or an obstructionist. My job is to work in partnership to productively get things done. Where that is happening, everything is gravy. We just keep moving along. Where that is not, you first try your best to work something out with your partner in a room. If that can't happen, the job that I have is to make sure I'm letting people know what is going on, and that I have their back and their ears and their voice. And if you have to do that publicly, you have to. I have a history of having the courage to step out when other people would not, and that's what I want to do in the lieutenant governor's office. In the New York City area, we have something called a public advocate. Basically, it's not connected to the legislature or the executive. There's nothing like that in Albany, and if people read about what's happening in Albany, we can see that the state is suffering because of it.
Yeah. Well, Jumaane Williams, candidate for lieutenant governor of New York, Democratic primary coming up on September 13th. Thank you for joining the Damage Report. Thank
you. Please go to JumaaneWilliams.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notified of our new videos. And catch the Damage Report every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.